Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to look at taking our door schedule, which we made in a previous video, really the perfect door schedule, in my opinion. But we're going to take that door schedule and split it into a door schedule that is by type as opposed to by instance. And so I'll show you exactly the difference between them and basically the result that we get. All right, and before we get into it, if at any point in this video you haven't learned something, please demolish that like button. It helps me out a lot. Also consider subscribing. That does as well. Okay, getting into it now. Like I just said, the last video we covered making the perfect door schedule. Of course, you need to start with a good door schedule, and that is by instance. So if I just look at any one of these doors, I can see, hey, look, here are all of my different door parameters. They're all by instance, which means that this door is different than that door, and so on, of course. And you can see, obviously, evidence of that the mark value is different, and the schedule is scheduling by all of that. It is all instance based. If we want to look at the schedule, we can see that opening this up, what we get is all of these parameters which are by instance. So knowing that those are all instance parameters, what do I have to do if I want to make a door schedule that is by type? Well, the door schedule itself doesn't change at all. In fact, I want to keep all the parameters. I want to keep the look and the organization and everything all the same, except I want to schedule, instead of the instance version of those parameters, I want to make new parameters that are type parameters, specifically type parameters. And what does that mean? Well, that means instead of having all the information for this single door here, all of the information will be found within the actual type. So all the same information will show up here by new parameters that we will have to make. And in that sense, I'm essentially going to make all of these parameters once again, but instead of as an instance parameter, I will make that as a type parameter, which means I can split up the schedule. So before I do that, why would I want to do that? Well, like I said in the last video, there's a good reason why. In a lot of instances that I've done a door schedule by type has been if you have the exact same door in a million places, or let's say more than a few. And by exact same door, I mean every one of these parameters that we see in the door schedule would be the exact same, like all the same information. So it's like, well, okay, why do you need 500 doors to be the exact same, to all show up line item by line item, one door, it gets its own line? That doesn't make any sense. So the whole advantage of doing a schedule by type as opposed to instance is that all of that information, assuming the door has the exact same information, which it would if it were used by type, it would show up as one line. And maybe it's 50 doors, maybe it's 2 doors, maybe it's 500 doors. It doesn't matter. It takes up one line. It's really easy to read, and you could see that same tag throughout all of your whole model, all your plans, and you can see, well, yep, it's all tied back to that one door. This door is that door. And where do I use this? Well, I've used this a lot for hotels, mainly the entry doors to hotel rooms, or maybe the bathroom door. A lot of those are going to be all the same type of doors. I've also done that for stair tower doors, egress doors. Most of them end up being similar, if not the same, especially for stair towers. So those are just a handful of examples. You might have a specific type of door that shows up in a bunch of places, and that's where you want to do it. Okay, so I'll just go through one example of how I'm going to do this, but by type. And so I can come in here and I'm going to simply make a new parameter. This is going to be a project parameter. I want to make sure it's by type. And this one is just going to be the door number. So I want this to be text. I want this organized differently. So I might put this in data. I might put it in other, like it really doesn't matter, but I'll just store all of this information in data that I go through. And we want to call this door number. And with that being door number, I can press OK. I don't really necessarily want it in the schedule, but for the sake of this, I'll press OK because I want to go back here to the plan, to this door, hit edit type, and go down to data. And we can see, hey, look, there is door number right there, door number. And that's where my door number for this type of door will go. So I will make the rest of the parameters so you don't have to watch me do all of this. We can compare them at the end of the day. And once we do compare them, I will then make the schedule very simply like I did, basically trading out the instance parameters for the type parameters. So once I make those parameters, I will see you and we will resume. All right, guys, I have just made all of those parameters. It took a while, but it's worth it in the end because you can see it here. I'm going to go to project parameters and you can see all the door parameters are here. I have not only the default instance base that I made previously, but I have the type version here of all of them, absolutely all of them. So this is a great way to do it. And that's all it is. So if I look at one of these, modify it again, all of these are, it's just a name, it's a project parameter, type, and it's a text parameter that is grouped under the data. And we can see that what is checked is only doors. That's really important. All right. Something at this point, really, we can just make the schedule. So I'm going to actually rename this one so we do not get lost. We'll call this one instance. And then we can end up duplicating this. I will call this one type, of course. Okay, now, so then it's just a matter of replacing all of these fields with all of these fields. This seems very simple, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go down here to the end, drag all of these in over here, and then drag all of these back over, leaving the fire rating. Fire rating is at the bottom. Then we have hardware set also at the bottom. Okay, and so this is looking good. This is basically the order of things here. So I don't no longer need mark. Obviously, I just need my door number. We can find that right here. So then there we go. Door number at the top. Then it's just a matter of reordering these according to the way I have things laid out there. So we've got the door number with height, thickness, and then I have my door panel type. My door panel type is right here. So I can drag all of these down. And then I have my door material, door panel material right here. Drag that down. And then I have my door panel finish. Drag that down. Same with that, the glazing type. Then I've got my frame type, frame finish. And then I've got my details here, head, jam, sill, fire rating, hardware set, door notes. Okay, so whenever I click OK, it's going to just show everything as it is and will probably be mostly blank. And that is because we need to deal with a lot of formatting at this point. And so first of all, I will change all the names here to remove the type because we definitely don't need that. But besides that, we need to address at least one of the parameters, and that one will be the fire rating, because my guess is that the fire rating is it might be looking at more than just doors. And if that's the case, we might want to make our own fire rated type parameter that is looking only at doors, or whatever else you want it to look at as far as types go. Because if that's the case, you don't want that showing up as an instance parameter, so you still have to work with every single door. So there we go. All the names are a bit better now. Let's check this fire rating because that would be, it tells me that it is a built-in parameter, so I can go into manage project parameters. I'm going to type in fire rating, and it's not going to be there. So the main thing we can do really to test this is to click on a door, edit type, and see if we see a fire rating here, because that will help quite a lot. Obviously, we're not going to see it within the data here because this is everything that I've added myself as far as those parameters. But do I see fire rating here? Yes, I do. So that is perfect. That is exactly what I want. It's a built-in text parameter right there. That's all I need. So given that, we can also, to double check, we can come in here and search our parameters for fire. So I see nothing here, which means what I have there is perfect. Everything is coming off of that type. It's already a type parameter. So cool. I'm good to go. And at this point, I can just deal with the formatting if I want to. Obviously, I want to get it looking basically the exact same as this one here. So I will deal with that formatting, and I'll be right back. All right, that is looking pretty good. We're pretty close to have it looking like the instance, which is really just, all I did was rename some of the parameters. I grouped everything, fixed the size, and we're pretty good to go. So now we need to deal with a bit more of the formatting, but more of the sorting. So if we look at here on the instance parameters, I want to go to the sorting. And in this case, we're not really sorting by anything. I would probably want to sort by mark, but that in the end of the day doesn't make a huge difference. If I had multiple levels, which I don't, I'd probably want to have it by level or something like that, which isn't a huge deal. But I'm not really sorting or filtering by anything, so totally fine. This is perfectly fine. Now, maybe I want something similar, but the main thing with the type is that, I mean, yeah, we want to actually filter and sort by the door number, but I don't need to see every instance. Okay, well, watch what happens here. Right now, I have nothing but one line that says varies. Basically, everything varies because I haven't actually filled out this information myself in any of the doors. So let's come in here, and I'm just going to pick some of these doors that I know are very similar. Obviously, some of these are doors exiting some of the meeting spaces, things like that. The corridor walls are all pretty similar, and so the doors also are pretty similar. So cool. All these doors are good. There's 13 of them. I want to actually make sure this is the same type. Like what is it? Well, it's just going to be a basic flush door. And so let's do this standard flush door. They're all 3 feet wide, whatever. So basically all of that information, all of this, remember we have the width, the height, we have all that information in there. Maybe this needs to be like a rated corridor for some reason, and I need this to be a 45-minute door. I'm doing this so it shows up, not necessarily that it does have to be. So then the main thing is we need to fill out the rest of all this information. And so like, what is this door number? What does this mean? Well, it could be C1 for corridor. I mean, it could be absolutely anything. So we'll just call this C1. And then what is my panel type? I don't know, not a huge deal, but it's going to be a flush door. The material might be wood. The finish might be P for paint. The glazing type, maybe I don't want glazing. Maybe I do want glazing. Not really a big deal. So I'll just show no glazing there. The frame type here, maybe I want this to be hollow metal because it's, obviously it's fire rated. Frame material, also hollow metal. And then my finish is, let's also do paint. Cool. And then for the details, I'm just going to make up a couple details. Okay, so there's detail there. Let's copy this down, change the detail numbers. The nice thing about this is that you can add any parameters you want, any text information you want, and based on how this is working, it's simply going to be by type. And we'll show you what this does here in just a second. So then we have door hardware set. Well, let's call this hardware 1. Easy enough. And then door notes, corridor, door. Oh, so original. Probably not something I would do normally, but as a note, that's totally fine. So as soon as I press OK here, we can go back to our schedule because all of a sudden we have information that's filled out in our parameters. So looking at instance, nothing has changed because we did not impact those doors individually. But if we look at the door schedule type, we can see there is absolutely everything that we filled out for that particular door type. And so we can see, look, door type is C1, there's the size of the door. Obviously, all this information, I probably want this to be centered. All of this as well to be centered. These types of things are totally up to you, but I like the way this reads. It is giving me the idea that it is by type because I can see all of this. Okay, how do you know it's by type at this point? Well, the varies says a lot. That means all the information for every single door in the project is not necessarily filled out, which is totally fine. You don't need it all, but you'll see varies if there's a bunch of doors. So for example, let's see, maybe I want to know how many doors are a part of this C1. Well, I can have it added up that for me, but that's more than I need to do. I can just simply select this here. I can go to really any sheet or anywhere in my model. I can see, look, hey, 40 doors. That is 40 doors. Which means that I selected a few doors, changed those doors to that type, and then I must have had more of that type throughout the project. Not a big deal. But we can see what's left. And so we can do the same thing here, and this literally tells us what is left as far as the number of doors that do not have information filled out. And we can see that is 15, so very close. And even though I have those still selected, I can see all the other doors. And some of them are exterior, some of them double door, things like that. So there are a lot of other types of doors here. So maybe we want to take this one and basically fill out the same information because maybe it's the same type of door, but it's not going to be a C1. This one's clearly going to be a C2. It's different. Maybe the frame and maybe all of this is the same. Instead, maybe we don't have a fire rating. That's totally fine. We won't have a fire rating, which means we can have this be an aluminum door material. Yep, it's aluminum. And then the finish is maybe anodized, and we can use the same details for now. Obviously, these may not be the same, but that's perfectly fine. And this is probably going to be hardware set too, maybe because there's double doors for whatever reason, something else. I'm just going to call this double doors and give it a note. Totally, that's fine. So we can see here, great. Now I'm going to go back to my instance schedule. Nothing would have changed. This is all the exact same. I didn't impact instance parameters, but I can see, look, there's a C2. And if I select this, and I can see here, come back into my model, there's 10 doors. And then I can see those specific 10 doors right there. So there are a few doors that are left, the overhead doors, whatever. But that's perfect. That's exactly what I need. And that's great. So again, I can see what's left here. And it's probably just 3 or 4 doors, whatever it is. It's 5. Totally not a big deal. So this is one way of filling it out. So it just so happens I have very few types of doors in this project. Whereas if this were a real project, believe me, there would be more than just a few types of doors. There'd probably be 5 to 10. And for a building this size, it's not worth going through the trouble of doing by type. You totally can. You absolutely can. And in some case, because it is small, that might be a reason to do it too. So totally up to you whether you want to end up doing it like this, but this is it. This is how you do it. I like this a lot. And there's been a lot of projects where I've had, maybe take a hotel, for example. I've had all of the corridor doors, the unit entry doors for whether it's a hotel or not. Those doors, as well as bathroom doors, a lot of the bathroom doors, take those, even those 2 types of doors, and that is a lot of doors in the project. If you have 200 or 300 keys in the whole hotel, that's a lot of doors, and you don't need to see individual lines if they're all the same. So I've done it in the past where I have multiple scheduled. I have literally every door has those instance and type parameters, and I fill out the type parameters for the doors that I know I want to schedule just as one line item, and then I have the instance parameter for every other kind of one-off door that exists throughout the rest of the project. That's been really successful. I would, if I were doing that, I would recommend to you that you set up your mark values or door numbers different enough to where it's obvious this is showing up in the door type schedule versus the door instance. I wouldn't necessarily name it instance and type in my schedule, but that was for this video to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So really, that's going to do it for this video. We looked at everything as far as taking that perfect door schedule, which I would recommend you look at the previous video on how to get to this point, but then taking instance parameter, which is pretty much your default as far as doors and door parameters, and filling out a schedule, and instead filling that out as a door schedule by type. That's very different, but similar in concept, yields a much better result if you have a bunch of the same types of doors. That's the main thing you need to worry about. So if you enjoy this video, or maybe if you learned something, which I hope you did, please demolish that like button. It really helps me out quite a lot. It really does. Also consider subscribing. Thanks so much for taking the time, and leave any questions you have in the comments section below. I will be sure to get to all of those as soon as I can. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.